Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 5th, 2021. This is the East Aurora Union Free School District public hearing and budget and regular Board of Education meeting. I'm going to ask the Board of Ed to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody back. It's been a long time since we've had an in-person learning, but it is good to see all your faces behind these rather thick masks nonetheless. May I have a motion to enter executive session to discuss the collective bargaining with the superintendent? Moved by Terry Olweiler, seconded by Judy Malice. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Carried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. We're adjourned to executive session. Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Today is the Wednesday, May 5th, 2021. This is the East Aurora Union Free School District Board of Education meeting. We are returning from executive session where we discussed the collective bargaining with the superintendent. I just want to welcome everybody back to our first in-person meeting. It has been a while since we've been together, and even though we can't see your faces, it is nice to be in person. I look forward to the day when we can be back a little bit closer and we can have sort of be around a round table again, because it does feel a little weird to be so distant. But we'll see how tonight goes, and then we'll go from there. So welcome everybody back. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the public hearing. All right, Mr. Ross, Ms. George, up for the budget.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming tonight. Today, we're going to go through the public hearing, which is what we do right before the board approves the budget for a vote on May 18th. And so we'll get started. So again, today, the agenda says budget development considerations. We're going to look at the levy and the calculation for that. We've done that over the last several months. We'll also look at the tax rates. We'll review the revenues and appropriations. There'll be a recap of what the proposed budget is, what the proposition looks like. We'll look at our per pupil expenditure and what happens if the budget does not pass, and then we'll open it up for discussion with the board. Again, just saying budget development is always based around the values and vision of the district. This has been a really helpful process because it keeps us focused on what's most important to us. And here's the considerations that we think about. First and foremost, we're always putting the interests of our students at the forefront of all of our decision making. We use good care and judgment in the resources that we've been provided with by our community, and we're very grateful for their support over the last many years. We continue to conduct our business openly and objectively and in a professional manner so that we keep the community informed. And then we're future focused. Everything we're thinking about is how do we make improvements as we continue to move forward. So tax levy limit calculation, again, we've gone through this over the last several months, and you can see at the far right-hand side, it shows what the calculation is for this year. It comes in at 3.81%, which equates to approximately just over $901,000. Here's the tax rates. Again, this differs between the three areas, the three towns of Aurora, Colden, and Elma, and that's based on the equalization rates. We'll talk about what the actual rate is in a slide in just a few moments. So here's our proposed revenues. Where are we going to get the money to support the budget? Property taxes, our top area right at the top is $24,633,842, which is an increase of $902,491. Sales tax, we're thinking that it's going to stay consistent. Things have been up and down. We were very fortunate that this year we thought in the last quarter or two, our taxes were going to come in significantly less, which it didn't, which was a nice surprise for us. We're glad that happened. State aid, Medicaid is going up by $636,856. Again, that's really nice. We reviewed the entire state aid package in the previous previous meetings, and we found that this year the foundation aid has increased. Some other things around pre-K, which have all been very positive for the district, and that's the first time in many, many years that that's happened. Appropriated reserves, we used $361,977 this year to balance the budget. We're proposing to use nothing from the reserves. So again, that's because the state aid came in as positively as it did. Appropriated fund balance, we've been appropriating just a little over $418,000 over the last several years, and we're going to continue to do that for the 21-22 budget. And then there's other sources of revenue, which total about $862,688 for a grand total of $39,489,000. Sorry, no, that's not good either. $97, excuse me. So the components of the budget, like where do we spend most of our money? Most of our money, labor-intensive organization, goes to salaries and fringe benefits. And you can see salaries are going up by $944,539. Our fringe benefits are going up by $101,945. And the reason for that, the salaries are a combination of new positions that we're proposing in the budget, as well as the salary increases associated with the three associations, as well as our other employees. Equipment, reducing that by about $40,000 for the coming year. Supplies will remain the same. Again, we're trying to be conservative in certain areas as the budget year progresses. And if we see things are more positive, we'll probably ease up in the area of supplies, because that's been cut back for several years, and it's something that we need to attend to. Contractual items are going up by $126,341. State aid and tuition looks like it's going to remain the same. BOCES, a slight increase of $194,304. And we're expecting a transportation increase of about $36,755. The subtotal there is $1,363,884. Our debt service and interfund looks like it's going to reduce by $46,514 for a total of $1,317,370. So here it is, the proposed budget that the board will be voting on in just a few minutes is $39,489.97. That's an increase of $1,317,370. The budget-to-budget increase from 2021 to 21-22 is 3.45%. The levy, as I mentioned earlier, will be at 3.81%. And the projected tax rate increase is just at 2.36%. And again, this is a tax cap compliant budget as we see it. So here's a proposition. I won't read through it for you. This is what will appear on the ballot. What it does show is it indicates the $39,489,097 is what you will be voting on May 18th. We always like to look at how we're doing in terms of our expenditures. If we look at the total expenditure per pupil, we spend just over $36,000. And we compare that to similar school districts and all school districts across New York State, you can see that we're doing it for considerably less per student. So we really feel that the results that we get, the performance of our students, we really get a great bang for our buck. So what is included in the budget? There's a capital outlay project. We've been doing that for the last couple of years. Capital outlay is a project of $100,000 is the maximum that we can spend. And that allows us to do small projects throughout the various buildings in the district. This year, we'll be working in 21-22. We'll be working on the middle school telephone upgrades. Also, we'll be looking at the replacement, middle school window balances, as well as the parking lot at the middle school. One thing about the capital outlay, it has to be spent in the same building. And so this year we'll be focusing on the middle school. It shifts budgeted appropriations from one category to another category. Again, here, from buildings and grounds equipment to buildings and grounds contractual. And this is for state mandated building condition survey. I just met with the group today to talk about the building condition survey. It's something that we're responsible for. And then we have to go through every 5 years with an architectural firm to examine the conditions of our facilities and then predict what we will need over the next 5 years. Staffing, we're looking at hiring 1.0 teaching position at Parkdale. Technology, we need to add a technology systems administrator and a workstation administrator. There's some confusion about the word administrator here. They're not part of the administrative staff, but they are part of our technical staff, but that's just the title that they hold. They are actually part of the civil service unit. So I just wanted to clarify that again, because of the major increase in technology that we've had over the last several years. We need to bolster our team within the tech department. And it also includes a 1.0 FTE clerical position. So what happens if the budget doesn't pass? A lot of people ask what happens. We would revote on June 15th, 2021. If we have to adopt a contingent budget, we will need to reduce the proposed budget by $901,828. Again, people will ask me, well, what does that equate to? Typically for us, all of our money, as you've seen earlier, is in our salaries and benefits. So typically it results in layoffs, and that would equate to about 8 teaching positions. We wouldn't be able to purchase any of the equipment, and also potential reductions in athletics and co-curriculars. Again, so much of our money is allocated to things that we have very little control over, and so typically it comes from our salary positions. And so then I'll open it up for discussion with the board. Thank you.
So this is the time in the meeting for visitors' comments on the public hearing on the budget. There is another separate time later in the agenda for discussion, public visitor comments on something else. If you want to make a comment on the budget, now would be the time to do so. I would ask you, if you want to make a comment on the budget, to please raise your hand, and one of our folks will assist you in getting to a microphone. Is there anybody who wants to be heard on the budget only this time? All right. Moving on to board members' comments. Anybody want to comment on the budget? Again, we approved it at our last meeting. I had no issues from anybody. Anybody else? Okay. All right, then I'm going to adjourn the public hearing. And moving on to our regular agenda. Any agenda changes tonight, Brian?
No.
All right, and there's no initial items requiring board action. We are on superintendent's comments.
Yeah, I'd like to, well, you know what it is? I'm going to wait. Mr. Roberts is here. Yep. I'm going to wait to see if he's going to speak about this later, and then I'll make this comment then.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
And nothing else?
Yeah, after he makes his comment.
All right, board presidents and board members' comments and committee reports. Jessica?
I can't follow.
Up.
There we go. Thank you. I just wanted to congratulate the staff and teachers and students on a fantastic musical. I thought for sure we were going to see pandemic version of musical, and the only thing pandemic about it was the reduced size of the audience, who were at least Thursday night in full force. So congratulations. It was absolutely fantastic, and I hope loads of people take the opportunity to stream it this coming weekend. Thank you.
Thanks. Terry?
Yes. Hello? That's not working.
You're not on.
Hello?
It-
Mark? Hello? Oh, I'm on. Okay, thank you. I'm not a microphone person. I also want to say that the musical was absolutely amazing. I've been taking my kids to the musicals for years, and my favorite part is finding the one student in the musical who has never done a musical before, and yet he or she is a junior or a senior. And this year at intermission, after everyone went around and said, is it okay if we get to talk? Is it okay if we get up? The talk was, who was the boy who played the plant? Not the person who was actually in the plant, but the boy who actually sang the plant. And no one, I mean, everyone's like, who is this child or this young man? And supposedly he was a senior and had never been in a musical before. Is that right, Bill? Anyway, his voice was amazing. He was off on the side and he was singing and enunciating. He was just amazing. So, I mean, kudos to this child, this young man. He was just absolutely amazing. So the whole entire cast was wonderful, but I always look for that one person who finally, junior, senior year, gets up the nerve to get up there and do it and blows the audience away. And this young man did that. So kudos to him. The other thing I wanted to mention, I was driving last Wednesday down Seneca Street, and I saw a bunch of our high school seniors who were at Knox Park raking leaves, digging for trees that were going to be planted. And I just want to say how impressed I was to see all of them outside working together as a group. I don't know whose idea it was to change the format of community service this year, but it was brilliant. I think it really was a great way to do community service and get them all out together. So thank you. Yesterday, I had a district parent council meeting, and if anyone is not familiar with that, that's when all the three PTOs, the boards of the three PTOs get together and we meet with Mr. Russ. And yesterday's meeting, the last meeting of the year, we invite the principals, and we kind of go through what each of the PTOs are doing. I'm not going to go through each PTO because I don't want to take the thunder out of any of you principals who I'm sure are going to talk about things, but there are just a couple things I wanted to mention. All three PTOs are currently working together on doing a color run for the fall. And that's something that they're going to incorporate on some Saturday or Sunday, and more information will be forthcoming. And they're all also supporting a 1EA activity. Each school is going to do something a little different, either involving hot dogs or ice cream or something, but it's just to show that we are all 1EA. And this week is Staff Teacher Appreciation Week, and all three PTOs again supported our teachers and our staff. And I wanted to say thank you very much from the board, for actually thanking our teachers. This has not been an easy year for anyone. So I really appreciate the fact that they were supporting our teachers this week. And lastly, each of the three PTO boards has openings. So if anyone wants to get involved, they all desperately need people to join the PTO boards. So please, in the back of the calendar, it tells you who to contact. Our website has their email, contact information. Please reach out and contact them, because it's a great way to get involved with our district. That's it.
John, anything?
Nothing much other than to say thanks Brian and administrative staff for everything they've done this year, keeping the schools going and working towards this budget. They've been phenomenal.
Judy?
Just to echo,
I can't hear her.
right? Just to echo what Terry had to say for teacher appreciation. I don't think we can say enough to how much our teachers have had to innovate and be creative this year, and the support they've received from the administration has been wonderful. Parkdale returning just has been amazing. My second grade grandson informed me that he guessed it was okay. He wasn't thrilled, but he guessed it was okay. So I think that's about as good as you're going to get. My daughter substitutes at Parkdale, and she said the biggest problem she saw was little ones coming up and saying, when is it snack time? When is lunch? Because they're so used to having all the breaks. So kudos to all of our teachers. I just think you're marvelous, and just hang in there. We're getting there.
Thanks, Judy. Kim Daniel?
I again would echo what Judy said. Congratulations to our teachers on all their hard work this year. They are so appreciated. And I had the chance to drive by on Monday morning, Parkdale, and to see the sign out. It was just, it was joyful. It made me so happy. It was a beautiful morning, and to see that sign and all the kids going out there. So thank you very much. And also thank you to our administrators on all their hard work on the budget. I know it was constantly changing as we went through, from month to month, never sure where we were going to be. So thank you so much for all your hard work on this.
Mr. Brunson?
Thank you. I have nothing tonight.
Thank you, Dan. All right, administrators' comments. I don't have to call on everybody because you're all sitting right there and can wave at me. Is there any administrator who would like to address the board? Cindy Marinaccio, go ahead. I can't hear that. Yeah.
Okay. So just like Brian said, when we're developing the budget, our focus is on what's best for children. So the two programs that I'm reporting on tonight or giving you an update on, our focus was primarily what is best for the children of our district. So the first one is UPK, and I just want everybody to know that we are moving forward with the UPK program for 4-year-olds. It will be a full-day program. We sent out the RFP to 11 community-based organizations for a collaborative, for them to collaborate with us on developing the program and administering the program. We placed the legal notice in the papers, and the RFPs have to be back to the district by June 11th at 4 o'clock. And once we get those back, we'll be able to review those and make a determination as to which organization that we will collaborate with. I've had a lot of interest from parents people are already hearing about it and contacting me. So my next step really is to start developing the information for the parents and get that information out.
Are we anticipating full day, 5 full days?
Yes, 5 full days. That's what the grant requires, 5 full days, a minimum of 5 hours a day. So in 180 days, it has to follow the school calendar. Okay. The second thing is the 811 classroom that we have been talking about for the middle school. And we are moving forward with that classroom also. We are in the stage of contacting parents, and we have the classroom space planned, and we are now looking at resumes and looking at interviewing teachers for that position. So both of those are moving along nicely.
2 great bits of good news. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, could I just comment on that? I just want to thank Cindy. She's only been here
2 months.
2 months.
2
And so
months.
in that very short period of time, we've put a lot on our plate, and I couldn't be happier with the result of both of these programs. I think it's, as you said, it's so valuable for our students. And the nice thing about the pre-K program, there's 54 slots. So that'll be 54 students who will be eligible for full day, 5 day per week, 4-day, 4-year-old program. And that's about just a little less than half of the incoming class. And so typically, we're looking at 125 students. So out of that group, 55 will be eligible for this new program, which is really exciting. So we're looking forward to the results from the providers that we've sent out the RFP to. And then we're going to probably need to have a board meeting. We were thinking about maybe June 15th, 7:30 meeting to approve that agreement.
No, not the 15th.
Oh, no, it's not the 15th. Thank you.
I thought when you and I spoke, it was the 18th.
18th. Thank
Yes,
you.
okay.
That's why I'm looking. Yeah, June 18th. That's a Friday.
Yes.
Sorry. Yep.
A meeting on a Friday?
Yeah, 7:30 in the morning. Yeah,
Oh,
we can do it.
that sounds
It'll be a morning,
Yeah.
morning meeting. Yeah.
What's everyone's calendar like? 7? I need a quorum. Jess, you're good. Terry, can you make it?
Is that in person?
Yeah, we'll likely be in person at the superintendent's office. John, Judy? Okay, I have a quorum. Good.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, 2 more things about UPK. One, we have a curriculum meeting this Friday morning. And I know there's 2 of our board members that will be there. We'll review the UPK curriculum, which aligns with our kindergarten curriculum. The other thing is, just for any parents that are listening to this and are interested in UPK, it is going to be a lottery system for choosing the children. That is the basis. If we have more children or parents that apply for the spots, it has to be a lottery.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Cindy.
Sorry. Safety first.
Mrs. Covert,
Yes.
just a quick question. It's more of a comment. I know that the regulations require a lottery system for this program. I just want to be sure that as we're developing the program, we develop lines of communication with agencies and professionals who can refer those who would normally not be able to afford pre-K for their children through a private source. The social workers and agencies like the Rural Outreach Center and the Boys and Girls Club, and even our own people know which families have problems associated with being able to afford what is quite an expensive private service. So I just hope that we make sure that those families are encouraged to apply and that they're given the information they need for that to happen.
And Terry, I wonder if the DPC folks that might consider fundraising, if we hear of families who are in the lottery that otherwise would not be able to attend pre-K but really wanted it for their kids, I wonder if maybe we could find some source of fundraising to target those families who might not have their number drawn. And we know that there are folks that might be able to know because if the private slots are opening up or might be available, if we might have a fundraising avenue to maybe make something like that happen.
That's interesting you said that, because at our meeting yesterday for the color run in the fall, they were thinking of coming up with a charity of some sort.
Yeah.
So maybe that is something that they want to look into. So we're not meeting again this school year, but we'll meet again in the fall. But I will send out an email to the 3 board presidents and just kind of suggest that. Or just kind of
And we don't know. I mean, we don't
Put it-
know.
yeah, just
We
put
don't
a
know.
buzz-
We don't.
yeah.
We don't know
Put it on
yet.
there just so they know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
It's a good idea. Thank you.
Jessica, anything? Yep.
Well, we reopened and have all of our kids back, and we're really excited. Do you want me to save that to talk about until the reopening, Brian?
Sure. Why don't we
Okay.
do that?
Okay. Just a couple things. You know, we're already planning for the end of the year and even next year. And the PTO has been amazing. They funded that beautiful sign that was out there Sunday night to Tuesday night. They're sponsoring a special station at Field Day as part of the 1EA that Terry was talking about. They had, they're going to have a beautiful spread, and the parents also volunteered luncheon for the teachers on Friday. And they're helping us plan a 4th grade moving up ceremony. So we are planning an in-person moving up ceremony this year for our 4th graders. There most likely will be three of them, 2 classes each in our gym. So we're in the process of planning that, but there will be a moving up ceremony. Mr. Brown and I are talking about the buddy day and getting them up to the middle school before the end of the school year. And the seniors are going to do a senior walk at Parkdale. We're planning that for middle of June, an outdoor where they can parade around and see all their old teachers, and all of our students can see them.
I'm glad you're bringing that back.
Yeah, yep. And the PTO is also still funding some field trips. They look a lot different, and they're either coming to Parkdale or somewhere where we can walk to. So I know our kindergarten classes went to Millard Fillmore House in the last couple of weeks, and our 4th graders are also planning a trip there. You know, it means something different to a kindergartner than a 4th grader, but it's close within walking distance. We're looking at the movie theater for maybe a special event for 4th graders. A couple of our classes have been to Knox already. We're going to have a bunch more go there. Nickel City Reptiles is coming in to do a reptile show for our 1st graders. Our kindergartners usually go to Akron Acres, but we're going to bring some farm animals to them at Parkdale. And a couple other little things in the works for some other grade levels. Nothing has been finalized yet, though, so I don't want to spoil anything. And then the rest, I will talk about reopening when we get to that part in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lang. Mr. Brown?
Thank you. Good evening. It's hard for me to have a microphone and not start doing my announcer stuff and all that. I'm having a hard time, but I'm going to hold it together. Just a few comments. I'd like to really echo what Jess said and Terry about the PTOs. Today, our teachers walked into the building, and there was a huge snack bar set out in the hallway by the main office full of salts and sweets. So there were chips and pretzels and all of that, and candy galore. And we made lemonade out of lemons stand with little make your own lemonade. So it was very much appreciated. And the PTO has really stepped up and really let the teachers know how much that they are appreciated by the parents. So thank you for that. Also, the talent show. We did have our middle school talent show, although it looked very different. Obviously, it was not here like it typically is. We were able to do a virtual one. Board members, I sent you today a link. You probably have not had a chance to view it yet. I will warn you, it's a little lengthy, over an hour, but it's worth it. And to be honest with you, in some ways, it was almost even better than being in person because of the talents that some of our students got to put on display. For one example is we have a race car driver in 8th grade who legit is a race car driver in a real car racing around the track. And it has videos of him in the car and outside of the car. And those are things that you obviously cannot bring to a talent show when you're here at the actual school. So I think you'll really enjoy that. So please do take the time. And we did send that out to all of our students and all of their parents yesterday, I believe. Maybe it was the day before. We didn't have a winner this year. We didn't do judging. We just kind of left it, to display their talents. Two other brief things. As Ms. Lyons said, we are going to have our fifth graders, next year's fifth graders, for a buddy day at the middle school, where they will walk over and tour the middle school. And we are going to have our parent information nights for fifth graders in person. We are going to keep them in small groups. We have 4 sessions planned, and all of that information went out today to the fifth grade parents. So we're very excited. I think everyone is virtual out. And so we're very excited that we're not going to send a link with all of our information, that we're actually going to get to see each other face to face, even though it is behind masks, and have that opportunity to really meet and give parents a tour of the building. And lastly, our 8th grade ceremonies, we're changing them up a little bit this year. We're going to have, rather than an 8th grade moving up ceremony, we're going to have what we're calling an 8th grade celebration. I'm not going to give you all the details right now because we are finalizing a couple of them, but it's all ready to go, and it's going to be a team building experience for our 8th grade students. We're going to focus more on skits and having fun rather than awards and making it formal. And I really think that it's going to be something that's very special for our students. And I look forward to explaining more about that once it's all completely finalized. That's all I have. Thank you. The LEAP capstone, that will be, okay, so our LEAP capstone, thank you for bringing that up, Judy. It's going to be, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but it is early June, I believe. And what we're going to do is the students, the 8th graders who have participated in LEAP are going to set up in the gymnasium, and we're going to have all of our students come around and be able to view presentations. Then what we're going to do is have a virtual one that we're going to send out to the parents. With all the regulations, we decided that it was really hard to have the parents and that many people in having to test negative or show vaccine proof and all of that. We decided to go away from that this year, but we're still going to provide the whole point of LEAP is to give the students the opportunity to share their passion and their projects. So they're still going to have that opportunity. It'll just be with other students and teachers as opposed to parents and visitors. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Yep.
Who's going next? Mr. Roberts or Mr. Moore? Arm wrestle?
This past weekend, you may have seen at the middle school, we took over Mr. Brown's back parking lot and our Donate Life Club ran a food and clothing drive, and it was tremendously successful. Filled the back faculty lounge full of food and clothing donated from people in our community. So great success this past Saturday. Terry had mentioned our community service day, and what we're thinking is going to be a long-standing tradition. We had over 150 seniors and teacher volunteers across the East Aurora community at 8 different locations and performed hours of community service. And although Terry, I appreciate, and I hope Mr. Russ was paying attention, that idea was called brilliant. Although I can take credit for the idea, I've got to give all the credit to Mrs. Green, our senior class advisor. She coordinated the entire event. Our students came in excited to be together, excited to perform community service in many of the areas that have supported them throughout their childhood. And everyone came back here. We met up at the stadium, and our teachers were grilling hot dogs and hamburgers, and we had a nice cookout. So a wonderful event. And again, we're looking to do that next year, but we'll do it in both the fall and the spring. And that'll allow our students to fulfill their community service requirement for graduation together as a group.
Brilliant.
Kim, did you have a question? Sorry.
I was just wondering what the students, the feedback you got from them, but you answered it, and they really seem to enjoy doing that instead of the individual stuff that they used to.
Right, because
Great.
typically they're going out as individuals, as you said, but this allowed them to go out in busloads to these 8 different locations. We had some outdoor locations, some indoor locations, so we were able to meet the needs of all of our students.
No, that's
Yeah.
great.
And it meant a lot to the community agencies, and I know Mr. Russ received a really nice thank you. I don't know if you wanted to share that now, Mr. Russ, or maybe later.
Sure, why don't you finish it?
Okay.
Yep, and then I'll-
And then Jess had talked about the musical. If you didn't have an opportunity to see that live, it will be airing 3 days. I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you can just go to our high school website to find the link, and you can enjoy that in the comforts of your home. And then just 2 more things. Our AP exams kicked off this week. What's traditionally a 2-week period of exams is actually a month of exams this year. So thanks to Mrs. Huber for coordinating all of those exam dates throughout the month of May, and best of luck to all of our students. And then the last thing, and Jess had mentioned this, we are talking about celebrating our seniors. So a number of things are happening. You may have seen the senior lawn signs throughout the community. We are doing that Parkdale Walk again this year, backed by popular demand. We're going to combine that with some old school field day activities. We're going to have a picture opportunity here in June, so seniors can come and get their picture with their families on our stage with the graduation backdrop. We'll pull out the 2022 sign, and we'll revise that and be a 2021 sign for pictures as well. And then again, backed by popular demand, and we thank the PTO for helping with this. The banners will go up and down Main Street with pictures of all 160 of our graduates, and those are going to go up in mid-May. And then lastly, we are talking about prom, and we're talking about graduation. And I'll have more information as those dates get closer. Part of that is because if you follow the guidance, it changes on a weekly basis. So we have a plan A, B, and C for all those events, and we'll let you know when it gets closer which plan we go with. So I think Mr. Moore maybe had a few things to add, so I'll pass it off to him after we sanitize.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. So I want to echo the board's comments about the musical. Chris Cummins and his team, with what they had constantly changing health and safety situation and regulations that they had to work with, really did something amazing, magical with the team that they had there. The students, their talent was on display, and I was just mesmerized by it myself. And so hopefully everybody gets to enjoy it this week when they air it online. The only other thing I wanted to mention was we had the Chamber of Commerce Chamber Choice Awards this week. And so we had our students honored. This is an award that honors students of high character, seniors of high character. So the award winners this year: Caroline Ruffner, Annika Spencer, Annika Safford, Kasha Kalinsky, Brennan Wepner, Kira Kavsich, Thomas Zagrabelny, Jack Meyer, Ethan Fry, Libby Gottstein, Jacob Fontaine, Alyssa Ignatowski, and Catherine Roberts. These students were awesome. So this year, instead of having a dinner, we had them come in to the auditorium here just about a week ago, and they all delivered acceptance speeches that were filmed with a crew, a filming crew, and that will all air on TV. So they all get to be TV stars in the near future. It'll be on Channel 5 on cable, WBBZ, on May 19th and on May 23rd. These students were just, they absolutely represent the East Aurora community so well. They delivered such awesome speeches, and you could see in the way they worked together and cheered each other on for their acceptance speeches. I just can't say enough about these students. So congratulations to them, and thank you to Mr. Russ, who provided us with a wonderful sort of reception for these students. It was a great event.
Thanks, Travis.
Yep.
You had something.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I knew that the administrator was going to share some comments, so I didn't want to steal their thunder, but I do want to say a few thank yous. And I'll start off by thanking Ms. Green again for pulling that community service day together. It was really great to see the kids. I think she said out of the 160, 158 students showed up. So it was really nice to have them all together. And then the teachers cooked hot dogs and hamburgers, and they were able to have lunch together outside at the stadium. So just a really great event. I think it was the first time they've been together all year. And so as the regulations change, it does allow us to do some of these things. So as these events come up, we adjust them. As Mr. Roberts was saying about the prom and graduation, we continue to get positive information, and that's going to allow us to do more things. And so again, just seeing the kids together was really quite special. And I'd like to share this. Computer went to sleep. This a letter we received from Kathleen York, Friends of Knox Farm State Park. So let me just read that to you at this time. I'm going to have a difficult time expressing my gratitude and admiration for the 50 or so students and staff who came to Knox Farms this morning. I was very concerned when I found out yesterday that our 4-hour volunteer day was only going to last 1 hour. What kind of work could we possibly accomplish in such a short window of time? The answer apparently is a great deal of work. Approximately 20 students went to the mansion and helped our garden club mulch around the perimeter of the house. This was an especially important task as we have our first wedding of the season on Saturday, and it is a full schedule from here on out. Mr. Schifferly of our garden club liaison said the grounds have never looked this good so early in the season. Another 20 students or so worked along Buffalo Road, raking out the winter debris that collects along the stone wall. Again, I had hoped to get about 1/3 of the length of the wall cleaned up. I think they finished the entire length from the main entrance to Bowen Road. This is a job none of the state park staff likes to do, so I know they are very grateful. 7 students offered to dig holes for trees that need to be planted this weekend. This is hard work. I expected to get a few holes dug. The grounds at the entrance is not forgiving. I think a friendly competition got going because 10 holes were dug. I'm still in awe of that accomplishment. And finally, I threw out the offer to pick up dog waste inside of the enclosed dog run at the front of the park. I really didn't expect anyone who would be willing to take on that particular nasty task. But 3 lovely young ladies stepped right up and spent an hour scooping poop and seemed to enjoy the added benefit of playing with the dogs at the same time. So thank you for sending your wonderful students my way. Please share this email with your administration. The entire school should be very proud, not only of the great work that was done today, but for the many compliments passed along to me from the state park staff and Friends volunteers. The students were a pleasure to have in every way. I sincerely hope to have the opportunity to work with you and your students again in the near future. Kathleen York, Executive Director. So I wanted to share that, a really, really special day. And I think that's what we found out is sometimes as we try to make adjustments and we try new things, we really find things that we're going to keep in place because they're actually quite special. So sometimes when we're in the midst of this and it's really challenging and difficult for us and we're kind of feeling down, the kids are feeling down, parents are feeling down, something like this happens and it certainly lifts our spirits. And it's something that we will continue on into the future for sure. So again, I'd just like to send a few more thank yous again to Mrs. Yunke, who runs the Donate Life Club for organizing the clothing and food drive. A shout out to Mr. Cummins. The musical was really fantastic. It was really funny and quite amazing that they were able to pull it together. The entire crew, the students, everyone who was involved. It was really difficult to make it happen because of the restrictions that were placed upon us, but they pulled it off and it was really funny and it was just a great time to be here. I watched it on Thursday as well. And I want to just give it a special shout out to Mr. Cummins, who's also coaching our football team at the very same time. So he's running our musical and he's running our JV football team. So he certainly has his plate full, but he does it every day with a lot of love and a smile on his face. And so we really appreciate his efforts. Then again, the Chamber Choice Awards, usually we celebrate that at the Willows in Holland, and it's Holland, Iroquois, East Aurora, and Ormsby Center, and they nominate 10 students from each of those sites. So we celebrate 40 students from the area. We've been doing that for many, many years. So usually we have a dinner together with their parents, and it's really a great event. So this year, Gary had to come up with a new way of doing that, so they decided to record each student, just talking a little bit about themselves and what they've accomplished and what they plan to do in the future. Mr. Moore did a great job kind of emceeing that and coordinating the students. And it was really a great time. Like you said, we had a little reception here for them because it was so different. But 10 amazing kids, all with different strengths and contributions to the district. So it was a really nice afternoon. And then finally, I just want to thank the PTO. We met, the district parent council. I meet with all the presidents and some of the other board members from the PTO. Mrs. Oldweiler's on the team. And this time, at the end of the year, we also meet with the building principals. And again, I can't thank them enough for just their continued creativity and positive energy that they bring to that table. I throw things out to them and they take it and run with it. They're incredibly organized, incredibly talented and creative, as I said. And we're just so grateful for everything they're doing for the end of the year activities to bring kids together. And as Ms. Oiler said earlier, we're planning a charity event for the fall, which will be a K-12 event. We'll be bringing students together we're not sure what charity it exactly will be. But they're going to be pulling together a color run, which is a lot of fun. And we're really hoping that all kids from K to 12 can participate. So just want to thank them again for all their fine work. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Fantastic. It's great to hear all the things that you have planned that are bringing people back and sort of putting back some of the traditions that we have. But I really do commend you for the work that you've done and being able to create activities that are despite the pandemic and the social distancing requirements, it's bringing people together. So kudos to you all and kudos to the teachers and our students in particular, because I think they have been the most resilient in this process, better than most of us, and I congratulate them as well. So it's nice to hear. It's really nice to hear. I didn't mean to cut folks off. Doug Wicks or Mr. Leibrock, did you guys have stuff this evening? All right. Moving on in the agenda to visitors' comments. This is the time in the meeting that a visitor can address the Board of Education. We have microphones in the center aisles. I'm going to remind folks this visitors' comments. When you get to the microphone, please say your name and your address so that our district clerk can get down the information to put in our minutes. Anyone who wants to address the Board of Education?
I am talking with my letter, so I did wash my hands before I, if you would like. Sure. We got my information. I'm gonna read mine. Is this on? Yes. So my name is Dawn Bona, and this is a letter from my husband and I. We live at 283 Greenwood Court in East Aurora. So dear Mr. Russ, our family appreciates that you and the Board of Education have reopened school for Parkdale Elementary students. While we do not have older children, we certainly encourage you to expeditiously remove barriers for the immediate return of middle and high school students. The prolonged school closure has taken a devastating toll on children of all ages. Given the lengthy duration of school closure, we are writing today to request information on your plans to offer in-person summer school open to all children K through 12. The learning loss that has occurred cannot be ignored. In a top-performing school district, it would behoove us to have children engaged in learning this summer in order to begin to erase some of the learning loss sustained. We look forward to hearing from you on your plans for summer 2021. Sincerely, Keith and Dawn Bona.
Thank you, Mrs. Bona. The summer school program is on the agenda for later in the meeting this evening. And I think we've also have the full reopening on the agenda as well. I know we have been precluded from reopening at the middle school and high school because we're obligated to follow the New York State guidelines. So we're waiting for those guidelines to change. And as soon as those changes happen, we'll be in a position to be able to inform the public on what we're going to do moving forward. Any other visitors who want to address the board this evening?
Is this on? Yep. All right, so good evening. My name is Deb Schmielowitz. I live at 2633 Blakely Road. I have 3 kids in the district, a 2nd grader, a 3rd grader, and a 5th grader. And most of you should recognize my last name as I am running for a position on the school board. First, I'd like to take everyone back 2 weeks to our last board meeting. During this meeting, a lovely letter was read by Ms. Covert, penned by Christy Kester-Welsby. Ms. Welsby's words have stuck with me these past 2 weeks. She spoke of what we are or should be teaching our kids throughout this process. The values of patience, kindness, empathy, and positivity. She also wrote of how teachers have been feeling caught in the middle during this process of parents wanting their children to receive more in-person learning, and how wouldn't it be nice if we could all reach out to a teacher and thank them for their effort. After hearing her letter, I immediately sent an email to Ms. Welsby after like 6 attempts at trying to spell her name properly, and thanked her. She sent me a very nice email back. I then sent emails to the teachers of my 2 children at Parkdale and thanked them for everything they do day in and day out for our kids. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the teachers, administrators, and board members publicly for your efforts, especially over the past 18 months. This has been a tough year. Tough on our teachers, tough on parents, and most importantly, tough on our kids. If I may, I think Ms. Welsby may have missed an opportunity to draw on what parents have been teaching their kids throughout this pandemic, and specifically the past 6 months. Parents have shown their children the power of advocacy and the importance of not giving up on what we feel is right for our kids. We have also shown them the power of continuous learning and improvement and the importance of questioning those who may be in a position of authority over them. The importance of reevaluating your plan at each juncture. These are also valuable lessons we as parents have taught our kids this year. And I am proud of the efforts that we have made to get our kids back to school, first on Wednesdays, and then, thank God, Parkdale opened up full time. Thank you very much for allowing that to happen. One quick kind of story about Parkdale opening up. My 2nd grader was so excited to go to school. She packed her backpack the night before, barely could sleep, woke up, dressed herself by herself, which is rare, came downstairs, made herself breakfast, made her own lunch, and was so happy and smiley to go to school full time. Our kids have missed it, so thank you for allowing that to happen. We still have work to do for the middle school and high school. We realize that some of that is out of your control. However, we do need to see a plan as parents in order to plan our futures, in order to adequately plan for the future of our kids. There are parents that I speak to, they're waiting to hear from the district because they're trying to decide if they need to research private school options for their kids. We cannot go through another year like this. In regards to the budget, I know those comments have passed, but I do have a few things I wanted to say about this. I first have to point out that this is the lowest tax increase that this district has proposed since probably 2015 or 2016. 2017, 2018 was 6.9%, 2018, 2019, 5.49%, 1920, 4.45%, 2021, 5.07%, and then this year, 3.81% increase. As a district with 1,700 students, we are proposing operating under a $39.5 million budget. The cost per child, I know your cost was much higher. I'm not quite sure how you did the math on this, but the cost per child is $23,176. That is more than the tuition for UB Law School, which is $17,450 for in-state tuition. Let's take a moment to let that sink in. It's a lot of money. And it needs to be accounted for as stakeholders, as taxpayers, as people in the district. I'm not suggesting it's not. I'm just saying that is a lot of money. So going door to door during this campaign cycle, I have had several conversations with elderly fixed income folks who are cutting other things out of their budget. This one woman told me she's cutting a subscription to the Buffalo News because her expenses are going up, but her income remains the same. I also want you to think of all the families serviced by our great community supporter, the Rural Outreach Center. I don't know if you noticed the lines on Wednesdays during the height of the pandemic, but they were quite long. There are a lot of people in our district, in our community, that need help. And especially now, it's not something that can be ignored. But there are some things, I knew you were looking for something positive. There are some things that I really do like about this budget. I really like the UPK, and I really like that Mr. Russ and the board listened to community comments, I'm assuming this is why, about not adding an additional assistant principal at the middle school and the elementary school. I know that the comments from Mr. Russ in particular about that were that there were districts our size who have assistant principals at each building. And I'd like to point out 2 local districts, Pioneer and Iroquois, who are both bigger districts than we are, that do not have assistant principals at the elementary level. I don't think that that's a good use of our money during this time. And I'm going to say that now because I'm pretty sure it's going to come up again. I also really like, and this is something that I think it's important for the public to know because it wasn't addressed in this budget and it's kind of been glossed over in previous meetings, is the $3.1 million in federal funding that will be coming our way that we are going to be using for summer school, and 20% of that money is going to be used for remedial activities because we know a large percentage of our student population has learning gaps. How can they not? It's no one's fault. No one's blaming anybody, but it's just a reality. And we need to put resources behind that reality to close those gaps. Those are some things that I really like about this budget. With that being said, I am supporting this budget, and I'm urging everyone else to vote in favor of this budget as well. Because we need our district 100% behind the main goal of opening our schools to our middle school and high school. We don't need extraneous activities going on, worrying about cutting teachers, especially at a time like this. It's absurd. We need to pass this budget. So I did want to make, I'm sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time, but I did want to make a comment to what Mr. Brown had said about this LEAP project. I was fortunate enough to participate in a LEAP project by one of the middle schoolers. What a wonderful, nice young girl. She reached out to me through her teacher, Mr. Terhune, because I have a running group that they run in town. We meet out of 42 North. Big group, actually. It's grown. It's gone beyond me. And she reached out to me to speak with me about running. This is a very strong, good kid. And it was so nice to be able to participate in that project. So thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Brown, so I could talk about that. And in closing, I think there's been a lot of talk in the community, obviously, about reopening our district and the strife and the problems that it's caused within families. And it's caused some ill feelings, right, between community members and teachers and the board. And I think in closing, we're all in this together. We all are. We have to be for our kids. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm running for the board, because I'm in it for my kids. I'm in it for everybody's kids. We need to find a way to move our district forward, to get it 100% open, and to close these learning gaps for our kids. Because this is a big portion of their lives right now, and we need to address that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmielowitz. So I'm not going to go through everything that you mentioned in your letter. The entire board heard it, but I do want to thank you for thanking your teacher. your kids' teachers for thanking Christy Kester. I encourage folks who are watching or who are listening to do the same because our teachers have put through a tremendous effort this year, and I think they don't hear it enough. And even when we say it here in a board meeting, I don't think they necessarily are the ones that are on watching it, although I know some of them do. But I don't think they hear it enough because they've certainly gone above and beyond. I think we have thanked parents and students throughout this pandemic, every meeting we've had, because we recognize how hard it is for families at home, that the board, the superintendent, the administrators, everybody's goal is to get kids back and into school full time, and that the goal has been to do it as quickly as we can and as safely as we can. So we are following that guidance with the hope that that's going to change soon. And I am encouraged by some of the recent changes that have been made that are going to allow us, hopefully, as we move forward to do that. We do have reopening meetings scheduled with the reopening committee beginning in May again to do and have plans for reopening in the fall. That is the expectation of the board. That is the expectation of the administrators. That's what our goal is to be able to get kids back. I agree with you. This is not a fun process. This is not an easy thing for families at home, and everybody's had about enough of it. So I don't know that whether it was advocacy or the hard work of our administrative team, but everybody had that same goal right along. The other thing I just wanted to say is that we have summer school program on the agenda. We also have a reopening of schools. Lastly, with respect to the budget, I just want to remind folks that when we discussed the budget for those of you who have not been at a board meeting before, when we discussed the budget, our list of priorities is a wish list of priorities that has been evolving for the last 6-7 years. So the things that are on that list that don't make it into the budget this time aren't about whether or not somebody voiced an opposition to it. It's about whether our administrative team was able to put that to the top of the priority, whether the Board of Education agreed that that should be the top priority, and is there money in the budget for it? I can assure you that that wish list is going to start next year with those items on it. And again, the administrative team will take a look at that wish list, and then we'll make decisions about what they're going to put to the Board of Education as the priorities and what can be funded year after year. Because this Board of Education several years ago said we want to have a long-term vision for what our budget needs to look like. It is not about 1 year and that's it. We look long-term. So those are priority lists that are there, and they will be built on from year to year and discussed at board meetings through the budget process every year. So with that, in addition to the discussion items that are on later on the agenda, thank you for your comments. Anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? All right. Thank you all. We are moving on to reports and discussion items. Joanne George, you are up for the financials.
Thank you.
I think so. Yep.
Just real quick tonight, our financial reports are through the end of March. I'm happy to report that everything is in balance once again. As of the end of March, we had a little over $14 million in our checking account and savings accounts. And that ties to our cash flow report, which was also attached. And I'm happy to report that our cash flow does look good, and we should be good throughout the summer when revenues are not being received. As of the end of March, we had expended about 64% of our budget. And again, that's below what we normally expend, but that was very strategically done with everyone tightening their belts without knowing where our revenues were going to fall until a month or two ago, that the state had not come through with the threat of holding back 20% of our revenue. As of the end of March, we had received about 90% of our revenue. And our cafeteria fund under the universal feeding, as of the end of March, we were about $20,000 or $10,000 to the good. All the other funds are running as normal, and that's all I had to report today. Any questions?
Anyone have questions for Joanne? Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 10 on the agenda, items for board discussion. the update on the reopening of schools full-time. Mr. Russ?
Yeah, I just would like to say, because I know obviously the reopening of, we'll talk about Partdale in just a second, but the reopening of the middle school and high school obviously is still a priority for us. I did get some good news today that the positivity rate within the county has dropped considerably. And so that is potentially, if it drops to, it's at 1,600. Is that what it was? Yeah, do you remember that? We got the, yeah, 1,600. So that's definitely a much better look than it has in the last several weeks. So that's positive. And if that comes into a place where we can get out of the zone that we're in right now, that would allow us to open the middle school and high school at that point in time. So that is positive. But one thing I want to focus on right now is just the reopening of Partdale. I want to thank Ms. Lyons, Mr. Leibrock for doing a great job and leading the teachers in preparing for the reopening, because I was there on Monday and it was absolutely fantastic. The kids were super excited, as you said. They were really lots of smiles on their face, skipping off the bus, all those kinds of things. A lot of logistics, it's different. We had kids all over the place eating lunch, and so it did take a lot of coordination and just even setting the rooms up and those types of things. But it went really, really well. Ms. Lyons and I, we were able to visit. We visited the classrooms in K1 and 2 just to stop in to say hello, to see how things were going, and things went really well. I want to thank the teachers. They've done a fantastic job. I know it's been a bit of an adjustment getting the kids used to being back in school full time, moving through the building, because they really weren't doing that prior to returning on Monday. But again, it couldn't have gone any better, and it took a lot of time and effort on behalf of our teachers to make that happen, make sure that the kids felt welcomed, and try to keep things as normal as possible. So they did move throughout the day, and the last several days have been going well. And so I'll allow just to kind of continue on that update if she'd like.
Sure. I don't have too much more to add. It was a very exciting day. The kids were just ecstatic, and it's fun to watch the kindergartners. They're not used to being in school 6.5 hours. Sometimes they have meltdowns at 11 because they think it's time to go home, or they're not sure why they're really hungry and they have to wait till 1 o'clock to eat lunch, or they got to meet Mr. Duff in person for the first time in library. And it was almost like the first day of school for all of our special area teachers, because they haven't seen them in person. So they're just spending the first couple of days teaching them, what phys ed class is going to look like, how to check out a book in the library, singing and music and stuff like that. So it's just been exciting to watch them. And then in lunch too, they haven't eaten lunch at school in 18 or 16 months. And the kindergartners, it was pizza today. It was like ecstatic that they got this huge piece of pizza about the size of their face, and it was everywhere. And it's just so fun to watch them. They adapt to change much better than adults do, I have to say. It's been fun to watch them. And then, of course, going out to recreation and just being outside with all of their classmates has been wonderful. I couldn't have done this without Mr. Leibrock. I mean, we've spent the last 3 weeks, there's so many small, tiny details that nobody thinks of. Like, the kids have to eat at desks now. Well, a kindergarten desk is a different size than a fourth grade desk, and the chairs and the kids' feet don't touch the ground. And, just trying to think about those little, tiny things nobody else thinks of, and we don't even think of sometimes until you actually have to plan it out. And, kids walking in the hallways and dismissal, we're getting that down. Officer Ferrara has been at school the last couple of days, which has been nice. It's just everybody's been really patient and flexible, getting all of them in the school and then out of the building. So thank you to Mr. Leibrock. And then, of course, the teachers. They've gone through more changes in the last 16 months than many of them have their entire career. And they've, for the most part, tried to go with the flow. We have a lot of type A personalities. That's what teachers are. They want to do the best they possibly can for their students. And with all these changes thrown at them, they're, they get nervous that they're not doing a good job, but they're doing a wonderful job. They've been amazing with all the pivots and now bringing back the kids full time. I think the last 3 days has really been, they've really, really enjoyed it too, seeing all their kids together and how happy they are together to be there together. Just some numbers here. We had 59 students that were all remote before we came back in person, and we're down to 32. We have 5 kindergartners, 6 first graders, 6 second graders, 4 third graders and 10 fourth graders that did decide to stay all remote. So all of the teachers that were teaching the all remote kids in the afternoon now have, 75% of their class in front of them and a few on a Google Meet. And they have some helper teachers in the room that are helping facilitate the communication. And we're working through the tech issues this first week. And we're trying to keep that as smooth as possible for them and still giving them the quality education that they received before, and keeping their same teacher and their same classmates too. So that's been another big change for those 6 remote teachers. They've done a tremendous amount of work to try to make it, like I said, seamless as possible and continuing that education for those that do remain all remote. What else? I don't think there's much else. I mean, everybody's just really, really excited and a little apprehensive. There's so many rules we still have to follow and questions. Can I touch this? Can I touch that? Lots of hand sanitizer, lots of soap and water. But for the most part, 100%, we're super excited. The teachers are excited, and the kids are probably most excited just to be back with their peers full days. So, do you have anything to add? No? Okay. Any questions?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
The 10 at 4th grade, are those in 2 different classrooms?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. We had 2 to begin with because there was a large group. So they kept their same teacher, Miss Rankin and Mrs. Ludwig Vanderwater. Yep. So there's 2.
And then I know there were some concerns about those kids learning to come back and be in school full time and to navigate the building and lunch. And have you gotten feedback? Is it going okay, about on par with what we would expect when they come back in September ordinarily? And it's
Yep.
it's
Yes, I would say it's running smoothly. For kindergarten and first grade, they're still in training a little bit, but it's going wonderful.
And then one of the concerns I had about 5 lunch hours is just that's
Yeah.
some
So
kids
we've
are-
always had 5. I don't know. I think
guess-
Brian forgot that. We've always had 5 lunch periods. Every grade level has their own lunch period. So
So
first,
there's not any more than this.
no,
time.
yeah, there's no more.
Were
They still
always
started.
that
They've always
early
started
and
at
that late?
10:40.
Were they always they always ran that early and that late?
Yeah, yep. That's the same exact times we've had since I've started. So, yeah. So first grade eats at 10:40, but they have a snack later in the day.
You're just spreading them out throughout the building.
Yeah,
It's
kindergarten
just
eats
all
at
together.
1, but their snack is at 10:30.
I don't like that. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's working out well. I mean, the kindergartners, they get hungry, but his son's in kindergarten, so they get hungry, but they get used to it after a while, and they have a nice big snack. And snack, you have to be 6 feet apart too. So our teachers have gotten creative. We talked about it before, but they have spots on the ground where if there's a gold sticker, that's where you can eat your snack because those are 6 feet apart. Or they try to go outside, or half the class eats. They have working snack, half eats, and then the other half does after they're done. So.
And I know we've had some comments about the academic, there's some gap there, but we had that Ames web data, at least with respect to math and stuff, that indicated, at least at Parkdale, that those numbers were.
Yeah, we're giving the Ames web again at the end of the year, and we'll have a final report. But from my point of view and all of our teachers' point of view, our hybrid model, they really didn't lose much academic time with their classroom teacher.
Right.
Yes, they lost in-person specials. They lost having lunch at school. They lost having rec for, the last year.
No
but they
question,
didn't
yeah.
lose a lot of that contact time in ELA and math.
Okay. And how much work are they getting done? And now are they a little?
No, I think
It would be like I would expect that the kids coming back and being able to see their friends, or for the kindergartners just to be in class with that many kids again. I would think that there's a.
Yeah, there's definitely, a week of new routines and procedures now that everybody's there. But at the same time, in kindergarten, in September, you didn't have to spend a week learning how to walk to class or how to eat in the cafeteria because you didn't do that. So now there's kind of like the time they would have spent in September, they're spending some time now doing that. But I think for especially second, third, and fourth, and even first a little bit, the kids caught on a lot quicker than the teachers would have thought they would.
Yeah. And my reason for asking that is not to suggest any criticism whatsoever. I really want our teachers to know that we want them to take the time to let the kids get adjusted. We understand, like, it's a process, and I just don't want them to feel the the stress of not getting through a lesson if the kids are just excited to be in school this week because they haven't been in school before. And we all recognize that some of that adjustment process is just gonna have to take place.
Yep,
And
yeah,
we're
oh yeah, and they
we're
did
just
done
excited.
some, the first day or two of school, a lot of the rooms, almost all of them did some sort of get to know you or team building because the AM and PM might have saw each other on a Google Meet, but they never saw each other in person. Mrs. Schmielowitz, I actually saw Sadie up front with her. Mrs. Davis's class gave a little speech about themselves to the class, and I happened to walk in. Brian was with me. Yeah, when your daughter was up front talking to the class. So yeah, they did a lot of those get to know you, presenting to their class type of activities to kind of bring that camaraderie together now that they're one whole group.
Anyone else have questions for Jessica? Kim?
One of the concerns that we talked about, the parents of the remote students were apprehensive how this was going to transition. Have you had any feedback from the parents, and how is that going?
I don't remember when we had our last board meeting, but Brian and Mr. Leibrock and I met with all of the parents and kind of explained our plan. And I think after that, a lot of them were much more at ease about how it was going to work. And I think we got emails after that, very appreciative that they were going to first stay with their teacher, and the plan we had in place to have an extra, teacher in the room to make sure that, and to go to specials with them to make sure that they didn't get kind of lost in the virtual world. So I haven't heard of any this week. I haven't heard any complaints either, though. I think it's working out pretty well, and this is kind of a week to get adjusted to it too. We're working through some tech issues, and can you hear me? Can you see me? Can we hear you? That type of thing. So
Yeah, that's what I was wondering specifically, if you had heard anything.
yeah, the tech department has been all hands on deck at Parkdale, and they're jumping room to room if there's problems or questions or, hey, I tried this, but I think this might be better. How can you make it happen? So we're working through little tweaks, and so far so good.
Great, thank you.
Jessica?
I just wanted to say thank you. I didn't understand how you were possibly going to keep the kids connected with their teachers and get them all back in. That is an absolute feat, and I'm so impressed that you were able to prioritize keeping those connections going while building them further. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone down there? Anything? Yeah. So thank you. And would you please pass on the thanks to the Board of Education to the teaching staff down there?
Yes.
They really have just Herculean efforts this year, and we recognize it and we truly appreciate it.
Thank you. I will.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that. I'd just like to, the teachers again, thank them for doing such a great job. I ran into Mr. Battle, and he said he had first day of school jitters. And he said because the kids, they hadn't seen the kids in 15 months. And so, every teacher, September 1st, no matter how long you've been doing it, it's a new year and everybody's really excited and nervous. And that's exactly how I felt on May 3rd. But they were super excited to see the kids, and they had some groups staying with them in the morning as they were arriving to get them spread out throughout the school. So they were super excited, and it was just great to see them engage. We went back after school had started, and the kids were engaged in an activity. So it was really fun to see that. Again, all the teachers are doing a fantastic job, but a special shout out, I think, to our kindergarten teachers who are, like you said, kind of starting over. And it's like September 1st for them, and the kids need some time. And I think it's really important that they take that time, that they get adjusted to the routines of school, walking through the hall and going to lunch. That's all brand new for them. So we just need to take our time and get through that, make sure everybody's comfortable. Also, a special shout out to our remote teachers, because that's really new. Teaching kids live and on the screen is a challenge at all levels, but particularly when they're between 5 and 10 years old. So again, I thank them for what they're doing and for the creativity. This extra teacher that's in this space is definitely helping. But again, they need some time to kind of work through that process, and so far so good. And then Officer Ferrara's always with us, controlling lots of traffic in the morning. So I ask everyone to be kind to him because he's doing the very best job he can. I was out there Monday morning, and there were a lot of cars. And so thank you, Officer Ferrara, for helping us out with that, because it kept things running very, very smoothly. So again, great job, Jess and Matt, organizing it and encouraging our teachers, the support staff. Our B&G did a fantastic job just preparing the classroom, setting up the tents outside. We are the process of purchasing tents, but we couldn't find any, so we're renting tents right now so that the kids can eat lunch outside, which is a nice space for them. Just good to get outside and gives us more room to spread out. So they've done a lot of things behind the scenes to prepare the schools to open on Monday, and they just did a fantastic job. Thank you, Doug, and your crew. Yeah, it's really great. It's wonderful to see them all back.
Fantastic. And Officer Farrar, thank you.
So, Mr. Brown?
There we go. Okay, so middle school obviously is a little bit different because of the guidelines that we're still under, because we're unable to cohort right now. So we're unable to come back. And I know that, Mr. Russell talked at a different time about a reopening, but I will let everyone know right now, we're already working on the potential for cohorting next year. If all these rules are still in place, that is something that we're already working on. We've been telling everyone. When it comes,
And that's just because cohorting allows us to keep those same kids together. So then you don't have that travel and those.
And in
social
5th and
distancing
6th
issues
grade.
Go throughout the building.
Correct. And in 5th and 6th grade, we're looking at doing a cohort option next year, as well as a typical one to see which way it goes. So those are, some of the things we're working on in the future. But for right now, I know Mr. Russ has shared with me that he's received some questions from some parents about how we are bringing some students back 4 days, because we have been able to do that. And I've had lots of conversations as well with parents over the past few weeks. And unfortunately, as I said, I wish it was, but it's not an option for all students at the middle school level, because we simply don't have the space or the class sizes, or it's just we're incapable of doing that for all of the students. So what it is instead of an option for all students, it's an option that we've opened up really just based on needs and the different supports that students have. So way back in the very, very beginning of the school year, I believe it was the first week in October, we were able to bring our first 5 students back. And we started with students, we had many teacher meetings. At that time, it was just the special education teachers, the psychologist, the counselor, myself, Mr. Leibrock also. And what we would do is just talk about, this is very difficult for all students, this hybrid model. It's really hard. But there's some students that the supports that they have in place on their IEP, we were just really struggling being able to follow through with that. And we were really concerned about them. So we started initially bringing back very small groups, 4 or 5 kids 1 week. 2 weeks later, we brought 4 or 5 more kids back. 2 weeks later, we brought 4 or 5 more kids back. And we really just met every 2 to 3 weeks, that team that I explained, and started bringing those students back to our classrooms. Then once we got to, I don't have the dates specifically, but I would say early January, around the change of the new year, we were feeling pretty good on that team about the students that we had identified that really needed to be back to get the support that they needed. We were feeling good. But we were seeing that there were some students that were a little disengaged. There were some students that were failing 1, 2, 3 classes, some students with very low averages. And the teachers have been trying to reach out. Those students that I'm talking about didn't necessarily have an IEP or a 504 plan. Or we saw an increase in the number of students and the number of parents calling our counselors. In the beginning of the school year, our counselors and our social worker didn't have a ton on their plate with the students other than students that they'd already been meeting with, and that number was really growing. We were having some pretty significant concerns with some students. So what we decided at that point, and we knew that it was going to open up a door that was kind of risky. We decided we need to bring back every kid that we are concerned about the best we can and that numbers will allow. So what we started doing at that point is kept meeting with the counselor and psychologist and social worker. And at that point, we reached out more to gen ed and team-based meetings. Our teams meet every 2 to 3 weeks and talk about kids. We talk about students we're concerned about, who we're going to reach out. That's happening all the time. So I would hear from the teams, here's some students we're concerned about based on their grades, based on being disconnected from school, not showing up to Google Meets, those type of things that teachers are noticing. So we started reaching out to those families and bringing more students back. At that point, obviously word starts to spread in the community that there's a larger number of students coming back. And we started receiving parent requests. Parent requests were something then I would take notes and I would gain feedback from the parent, because I think everyone here would agree that the parent knows the child better than anyone. And we take their word. There was one mom, her daughter has a 96 average, but she was telling me how her daughter went to bed every night of the remote learning crying, couldn't sleep, and there were a lot of different anxieties and things like that were starting. So of course, that's a student that we're going to do everything in our power to bring back, even though on the surface, some people are like, what in the world is that student doing back? So we're at the point right now where we're having these constant meetings every 2 to 3 weeks. Many of our classrooms are pretty full at this point. And just to give you a number, we have approximately, we have 63, which is about 12 to 13% of our population is fully remote. Because I think that's important in all of this, because that kind of, lets you know how much room we have left. We have about 22 to 23% of our students in 4 days, which leaves about 65% of our students that are in the 2-day hybrid model. And I think that's important, because a lot of the parents I'm talking to are under the impression that like 80% of our kids are back full day, 4 days a week, and that's just not happening. So as I talked to the parents recently, I'm explaining a little bit more about what our process is and what we're considering the quote unquote criteria. And to a lot of people's credit recently, as I'm talking to a lot of parents, a lot of them are saying, okay, I get that. And my child probably doesn't fit that criteria. So they have rescinded their question or their request to be here 4 days a week. Other people have different circumstances, and it varies. And obviously, we're not going to go in specifics. But any parent who has felt that their child kind of meets that criteria in some way or another, we do bring them to the grade level team. And then at that point, we also help, kind of rank, here's the supports of the students that we feel we can support and need the support the most. And then at that point, it goes to my amazing secretaries who are the best in the world. Well, they all are, but mine are really good. And it typically takes Mrs. Gervasi, Mrs. Christie, approximately a week or two to then look at every single class. We have a grid, a spreadsheet to see if that student's schedule can fit it, because many of our classes are already 18, so they're full. Randomly, one student's schedule could have all classes only 14. So for that student, it works based on numbers, but for that student, it doesn't work, So it's a numbers game as well. So we look at the supports first and then the numbers game. And then based on that, we give this list of students that we want to bring back to our first student bus company. And that usually takes them about 4 to 5 days to put the bus run together. So as you can see, when someone makes that request of this is something we want you consider, it's typically about a 3 to 4 week process by the time we are able to go through that. It's not something that we can do daily. We just simply can't do it. So I just felt like, I know that there's been some questions about why we haven't communicated it better. And I think that the reason why we didn't really communicate it is because the first statement I said is, unfortunately, it's just not an option for all students. And it's based on those needs. And we felt very comfortable that we were recognizing those needs within the school. And then when parents brought those needs or those attentions to us of some of the kids, we're like, okay, well, that's obviously information that we now have that we didn't have. So I just felt that it was important to explain to the board, as well as parents that are here, that's the process that we have. It's not random. It's not like, oh yeah, that one works, that one does. It's nothing like that. It's a very thoughtful process. I will say there's sleepless nights about this. I'm currently making phone calls this week of some students where it just won't work based on their schedule. And this has caused, it's been a very difficult process, but I can assure you that it's thoughtful. I do believe that it's fair. I know that fair is not always equal. The needs of the students aren't equal, but we're trying to create an most equitable experience as we can, and really just to support all the students and get as many there as we can possibly do. So I just felt it was important to explain that, and I don't know if any board members have any questions about that process or anything else that you're wondering about how it's going at the middle school.
Probably my only question would be, for those that you can't accommodate right now, are you encouraging them to look to the summer school program to get assistance that way?
Well, we haven't yet. Those are the lists we're working on right now that our teachers are working on to create who are the students we're going to recommend for summer school.
Yeah.
And a lot of that will depend on the numbers, how many are allowed to have. And I will tell you, for any parent that has reached out to me that has concerns about their child, for most of them, we are at least trying to hook them up with our school counselor or our social worker. They're just doing an incredible job. I'm so proud of our counseling center. I really am. And many families have taken advantage of that this year, and I think it's been a huge plus. And then many families just don't feel comfortable and they're not ready for that, and that's okay. But I just want them to know that we are here for them if they need us.
And do you have any assessment academically where the kids are this year in terms of their
Yeah.
benchmarks as compared to an ordinary
Right.
year? I don't want to compare it to last year, but
Well, we've done, and it's just one snapshot as our Fast Bridge, which is like our benchmark assessment. And we're seeing that it's right on par. We don't have the graphs that Jenny shared with you guys at Parkdale. I'll be honest with you, we don't have that. But it's been more, we sat down, had our comprehensive review days where all the specialists sit down with the teachers and we talk about each student. And when you look at percentages of the number of students who fell below the norm, above the norm, if you look at all of those percentages, they're right on par with where they've been the past couple of years. As I walk around the buildings, I talk to teachers. I think that, are we 100% exactly where we have been in curriculum? No, we're not. Are we a tad behind? Yes. Are we significantly behind? No. One conversation I had about 2 weeks ago with a math teacher, he was talking about, and so this would have been probably early April, is my guess. And he said where he is right now, he's about 2.5 to 3 weeks behind in his curriculum. So obviously, is that something we're thrilled about? No. At the same time, I feel confident in the experience that the students are getting based on the circumstances. I think the Google Meets have really helped. They're not perfect. I look forward to not having students on Google Meets ever again. I'm not going to say that, but for a long time. But overall, I'm just really proud of what our teachers have done and proud of how our students have handled this under the circumstances.
Right.
So,
anyone else for questions for Matt Brown? Judy, go ahead.
And just a statement. Thanks, Matt, for all you've done. I think putting the children with challenges and diversities first, and then the kids that really need the mental health help, has really made a difference. Also, I believe I'm right on this from when I was teaching at the middle school. There is, through the counselors, also information of mental health facilities within the communities. If they don't want to cook up with the school, there are other opportunities that the counselors can pass on to them. So there is help available, and it's just good that it would be out there and that people know about it.
and it's also on our COVID page, on our webpage,
Good.
many places, but you're absolutely right. And they're communicating that. Yeah. Thank you, Judy.
Well,
All right.
thank you also. That's countless hours, I understand, from you and your team to be able to individually assess those and constantly talk about those kids. So please, again, extend the thanks to the Board of Education, to your staff over at the middle school.
Okay.
We really do appreciate it. We just do.
Okay. Thank you.
So I wanted to comment. I asked Mr. Brown to share that tonight to just clarify a few things. And I guess I'd like to say that I think they've done a fantastic job. And we've gotten some parents calling and questioning how we went through the process. So that's why I asked them to explain it to them. And one parent said in a correspondence that our process is unjust. And so I think those types of that type of language is really harmful to our process. And so I just want to speak about that just for a moment. So we go through this process as Mr. Brown explained it. And so while we have very limited resources, we can't possibly offer it as an option to all. And so they go through this and not only go through the process of evaluating the students, but also to try to maintain their privacy and respect for each of those individual students and their families. And so to say it's unjust is really, it's really inaccurate, because actually it's what we're required to do. We don't provide services that are equal. We provide services that are equitable. And so what that means is that we do what the child needs. And so we attend to children on an individual basis, especially at this time when the needs are so high. And so while she said it's unjust, actually it is actually just. It is actually what we are supposed to be doing. And while it's not easy, it takes a great deal of time and effort to pull it through. It would have been much easier just to do nothing. We weren't required to do this. We could have kept the hybrid model as is. We didn't need to bring any students back 4 days a week. And so the administrators, the teachers, the psychologists, the counselors, the support staff are working every single day, evaluating students, responding to their needs, and doing everything that we possibly can to provide the proper supports. And for children, that is different. Each child is different, and we treat them differently, and we respond to their individual needs. And so I want to be clear about that when people say that publicly. I get reports about social media and things that are being said about the teachers, about the board, about our administrators. I don't engage, but people do share that with me, and I just find that type of process to be terribly divisive. I think what is so great about our community and what has made our schools so great, it's not the fact that we get good scores on our Regents exams, that we do great things on the athletic fields. We have incredibly talented singers and musicians. What it is the people, the community that make the difference. It's the relationships that we build. And those relationships are what sustains our school. And so we have a choice to continue to focus, as difficult as it is, on all the positive things that are happening and how lucky we are to be here, or we have a choice to be negative and to say things that unfortunately many times are just erroneous. Many times of the things that are reported to me that are being shared on social media, and like I said, I don't engage personally, but people do share things with me. Most of it is incorrect. And so I encourage you to reach out to your teacher, to the administrators, reach out to my office, and we'll be happy to spend time with you when you're feeling frustrated or in some way, shape, or form that you're feeling that your child is not being represented. Because that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. And I couldn't be more proud of what we've accomplished. I couldn't be more proud of the efforts that everyone is making, every person that's involved in the organization. I couldn't be more proud of that. The Board of Education has been absolutely fantastic in supporting our mission. And I think we have been very successful, as difficult as it has been. And so, again, I just encourage people to reach out and talk to us prior to taking information from other sources that many times are not correct. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Mr. Roberts.
Thanks, Mr. Russ. Just brief comments from the high school. I think Mr. Brown did an incredible job explaining the process, and I think the board knows that the middle school and high school have had a similar approach during the pandemic, and our approach to bringing students back 4 days a week is almost the exact same. Today, as we're entering into almost our 35th week of instruction, today we approved our last group of students that'll be coming in 4 days a week. So that'll bring our grand total to 78 students. Exact same process, again, as the middle school is using, and we're proud and thrilled to bring those students back. We still do have 100 students that are remote, fully remote, and that doesn't include the, I would say typically around 10, but it's been as high as 20 students that are quarantined that we're also supporting at home. Don't really have much more to share regarding those numbers, but if there's questions, please let me know. As Mr. Russ alluded to, sometimes we're finding misinformation. And one of those things that Mr. Russ brought to my attention was the high school schedule for June. And just want to clarify that from June 1st, when we return from Memorial Day, all the way up to Wednesday, June 16th, we will have new instruction in our classrooms. Our students will be in full period, 7-period plus early period days, all the way through the 16th. If you want to go and compare that to a normal year, our exams and Regents exams would actually start on the 14th, 3 days prior to where we're ending this year. But because there are limited Regents exams, we're teaching all the way through the 16th, so a normal hybrid schedule. And then we'll transition on the 17th and administer the 4 required Regents exams, as well as bringing in students who have struggled this year. And they will follow a normal schedule, 7 periods plus early period, all the way through the 24th. There will be more instruction in the month of June than I've ever seen in my 20 years at East Aurora High School, and I'm proud of that, especially those last 6 days of supporting the students who have struggled. So just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that there's teaching, there's learning, there's instruction, more in this calendar in the month of June than I've ever seen. So if there's any questions regarding that, please let me know.
Are you expecting the hybrid schedule to continue throughout the entire month of June or
That's a great question. So we'll run that hybrid schedule through the 16th.
Okay.
And then those students who join us on the 17th will come every day.
Every day?
Mm-hmm. And we'll, as I said earlier, we'll decide on June 16th, the students that will be invited to join us on the 17th. And then on June 25th, we'll decide those students who will be invited to join us for our summer skills.
So, go ahead, Terry.
Can you just say it one more time, Terry?
So, but you mean every day, you're talking about 5 days as opposed to the 4 days that the normal hybrid kids are currently doing?
So when those students come in, they'll come in Thursday, the 17th, Friday, the 18th, and then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the following week.
Thank you.
Bill, if I heard you correctly, you said on June 25th, the students would be invited to join for the summer. Will the parents of some of those students, will they get a heads up before June 25th, or is that kind of going to be the day that they find out?
It truly will. I mean, there's possibility that we'll know, say, the 22nd, 23rd, 24th for some of the students. Mm-hmm. The last day that we'll be able to inform parents would be the 25th. And it truly is because some of them may meet their benchmarks on the 24th. Okay. So our goal would obviously be to notify them earlier. It'll just depend on the progress they're making during those 5 days with us.
And the parents probably, and the student probably have a good idea that that is a possibility just based on where they are academically anyway. So it won't be a surprise, and the parents will be aware of that. Okay, mm-hmm. Thank you.
So it's a tremendous amount of work to evaluate that many kids up there. So again, thank you, Mr. Roberts, your other administrative team there, and the teachers, and for just the hard work. But kudos to so much instruction in June.
We're looking forward to it.
Wow. I bet we won't want to repeat that next year.
In the balance of Regents exams or regular bell schedules. So I bet there might be a split decision there on.
So my system shut down. I just want to get to the agenda. Is there anything else on?
Bill, I just want to thank you and your team for creating that opportunity prior to summer school. You know, it's nice to give kids that chance to catch up and do what they need to do to get their grades and good standing those 5 days. And actually, even before that, they'll be working on it. But it's just nice that they'll have that extra time and maybe be able to avoid going to summer school. So that's really great. Thanks.
So summer school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
one question.
Oh, sorry.
So I just wanted to reiterate. So our plan is in the fall to have all 3 schools, all students back full-time?
Yeah, so for us, for the fall, it is our intention certainly to have all schools back full-time. What we're working on, and that's what we'll be bringing the task force together, I'm hoping sooner than later, so that we can start planning for that. You know, we've been looking at Plan B and Plan C, looking into some opportunities like, as Mr. Brown mentioned earlier, you know, cohorting 5th and 6th grade. That's something that we can do relatively easily. We're looking at thinking about cohorting 7th and 8th grade, but the changes to the schedule, because they start taking advanced classes in math and science, they take languages, so they start going into different paths. It makes it really difficult to make that happen. But we're going to try to do that. At the high school, cohorting is almost impossible just due to the nature of the schedule and all the offerings that we have, all the electives. You can cohort, but you just would have to run all the kids in the same 6 subjects, so they wouldn't have a choice. And so that's why it doesn't work, especially at the high school. So we're trying to look at, looking into renting outdoor classrooms. And so temporary classrooms that would be placed on the grounds of the high school, possibly the middle school. So those are the types of things that we're considering. We'll be discussing with the task force, and hopefully have more guidance from the state. I am very hopeful that we will be able to get out of our zone designation, which would allow us to then come back at 3 feet of social distance, K to 12. But if that doesn't happen, we need to be prepared with a backup plan. And so that's what we're working on right now. And like I said, we'll be sharing with the task force, and then the task force will take it from there.
And I would imagine for the fall, we're still going to need to have the full remote option. So, I mean, read an article today that even with the vaccination rate the way we're at, that we can maybe expect next winter that there could be some spikes and some increases. And so even if we come back initially in full time, we may have to pivot throughout next year. So like last year when we were in the midst of the reopening plans, we have to have the state required us to have a full in-person option, a hybrid option, and a full remote option. Are we anticipating, I'm assuming the state's going to still require three plans. So we're still going to have our reopening committee have a hybrid plan in place and a full remote plan in place. We just need to be able to do that. We need to be able to, on a dime, pivot to something else.
Yeah. So that's what hopefully we'll get in the plan when they send it to us this May. They'll send out those requirements.
Yeah.
My understanding right now is that if we maintain where we are right now with the pandemic, that remote would still be an option. And so we have talked about, I've talked about that with some of my teaching groups. I've been meeting with the teachers at grade levels and departments. And so they were talking about, Brian, if we have to maintain a remote for just a small select group of students, how does that look differently? So we've already started that conversation because that may be an option. Yes.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so. For reopening, anything else? Any other thoughts? Nope. Yeah. So, but like I said, the number.
Brian.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. One thing I wanted to mention, we were doing the carousel, the microphone covers around here, so I didn't want to take too much time, but the extra week, I know we lost, I would say other schools started a week ahead of us, but that extra week really allowed us to button things up and really get things ready for this past Monday. We were hiring up until last Friday, and we were even tying up some loose ends on this past Monday morning. So it really helped us out. I know we were eager to get back as soon as we could, but the decision to push that additional week really assisted us in making sure that we were fully ready for the return. So
Thanks for that, Mr. Leiber.
Yeah, I think it made it difficult that the state waited as long as it did, and it did for various reasons, and we have to deal with that. We did send a letter at least, it was 2 months prior, asking them to examine and give us some idea of when we would be able to reopen. So they told us, I think it was 2 weeks before the reopening. And for us, there's certain things that many schools don't deal with, like we don't have our own transportation department. So we have to work with First Student. They have their own set of employees and routing and all kinds of things that they have to work on. So there were just a lot of logistical things that we needed to iron out, and I think taking the extra week really made the return.
Well, just hiring staff. We can't reopen and not have the staff there, and that was dictated by that hybrid model. I mean, we needed, because of the full remote folks, we needed to be able to hire additional people. So, and that just takes time.
Yeah, staffing, all those types of things, yeah.
So summer school.
Summer school, okay. Yes, so we're continuing to work on our summer school program, looking for people to teach and for teacher aides to support the program. We're going to run 2 programs, K-6 and 7 through 12. The K-6 program will be at Parkdale, and the 7 through 12 program will be at the high school. I've assigned Mr. Moore and Mr. Liebrock to be the principals of our summer school program, so they're really excited, and so they're off to a great start. And so they're working very closely, obviously, with the principals, with Mrs. Marinaccio, to develop what that looks like. Again, we're going to be running our typical BOCES program, special ed for students with special needs. So that's a separate program from this program. So this program will have a variety of students, which will be recommended. So we're running it kind of in 2 phases. We're going to have the recommended group from the teachers based on needs. And then we're going to open it up to people who would like their child to attend. The one issue that we will have is, and we're continuing to move on this, is the hiring of enough teachers to create those classrooms. So we can create as many classrooms as we would like. It's just getting those people to agree to do it. And so I'll be honest, it's been a long year. A lot of teachers are looking forward to taking the summer off. So fortunately for us, though, we have got a number of internal people who are interested in doing it. And so we're really grateful for that. And that's who's going to help us to design the program, along with the curriculum and the actual program, along with the department chairs and the grade level leaders. So we're starting that process very shortly. I'll turn it over to the group in just a moment. But we're also looking for teachers and support staff from outside the organization. So we're advertising. We had a number of applicants for our elementary teaching position for next year. So we're going to go to that group to see if they would consider teaching summer school as well. Want to add a component for the arts, phys ed, and those types of things. We're not exactly sure how that's going to look quite yet, but I'll turn it over to the crew. Matt, Travis, go ahead. Yeah, please, thanks.
Should be working now, okay. So as Mr. Russ mentioned, we did have a handful of internal teachers that have shown some interest. So we're working with those teachers right now to solidify their positions within our summer school ranks. The posting for the external positions to fill our voids does close this Friday. So we still have a few more days to collect some interest for that. And then eventually we're going to look to blend both our internal interest and also the outside interest to fill any of the vacancies that we have for our program. The handbook for summer school is actually just released today, so I had a chance to go through that, and it's essentially a blend of a traditional summer school regulations along with the uniqueness of COVID and the summer of 2021 and trying to advance education moving forward. So it did have some guiding principles in there, but the ones that are of note are to rebrand and enhance the summer school experience, because I think if you think of summer school, it's credit recovery and just trying to pass high school or recover some grades to be able to move on to the next step. So I think in our summer skills campus, how we've titled this, I think we've already kind of taken that step and really made this a unique experience as opposed to what summer school traditionally would be. It also has to strengthen partnerships within the community. So once we get our teachers together, we're going to look to not just make it an in-house experience, but just as we do field trips now with our students, and as Ms. Lyons had mentioned, the Miller Fillmore House to Knox Park, just to try to infuse that into our summer experience for the kids, but also reach out to the local colleges, Buff State College and the different teaching colleges, and invite the teacher candidates in to be a part of that as well, so they can get some experiences. And then lastly, it mentioned about targeting students who would benefit the most. So what we have done already is we prepped some letters to send out at the end of this week. We're going to be sending out letters kindergarten through 6th grade because we had our teachers at each grade level, along with support staff and the special education teachers, compose a list of students that we feel would benefit the most from this experience based on what we've seen out of those students this year. Similar to how the middle school and high school had brought the students back, we're approaching it similarly in identifying the students at each grade level. And we are going to get those out shortly and start to fill our roster. We do have a list of students along with several alternate students. So we'll be sure to make sure we fill every spot that we have at each of those grade levels. The high school is going to look a little bit different because what Mr. Roberts had mentioned is because their approach is a little bit more of credit recovery. We won't know for a little while, so they'll certainly notify those families and those students as soon as possible. But the high school is also going to have some skill support as well. So in the high school model, we're going to have students in grades 7 through 12. So there will be several students in there that don't need that credit recovery, but they will need that skill support in order to move on to the next grade level. So our next steps really consist of identifying our staff. I think that's our number one goal, to see how many teachers we're going to have available for the summer to determine how many classrooms we'll be able to open up. And then we'll start to develop the specifics of each of the curriculum and each of the grade levels, and then just navigate the logistics of blending the COVID policies and changes along with the approach that we want to take for summer school.
Thank you, Mr. Liebrecht. Anyone with questions? And you'll update us as we move forward. Thank you so much. Anyone? I didn't look at this slide. Great.
Yep, that's-
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you both. Any legislation to come before the board?
Nope.
Nope. And then we are moving on to the consensus agenda. Anyone who wants to remove anything for separate discussion? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consensus agenda?
So moved.
Moved by, raise a hand. Terry, seconded by
Second.
John Segretti. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Items requiring board action. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve an increase in the FTE in a part-time music position from a 0.8 to a 1.0, effective May 3rd, 2021. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Judy Mellis, seconded by Jessica Armbrust. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Any other business to come before the board? No. Hearing none. Our next board meeting is Tuesday, May 18th. I remind folks that's the day to vote on board candidates and our budget. So please go out and vote. And we also have a regular meeting in June on June 9th. And there's some other Erie County Association of School Board meetings. May I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by John, seconded. Seconded by Jessica. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's 9 o'clock. It's so early. We never get out at 9 o'clock.